Yes, so thank you for the recording. So Make Way program is this is a Dutch program, a program that is supported by the Netherlands or the Dutch Ministry in Africa, and Africa we are so much in Central and East Africa and other global parts of the world. It is a 5-year program that started in 2021 and is anticipated to come to end in 2025. So in Eastern and Southern Africa, it is being implemented in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Rwanda, Uganda, and Zambia. The main aim of Make Way program is sexual and reproductive health and rights for all. That is what it focuses so much, and it does this by trying to operationalize the concept of intersectionality, and it also focuses on leaving no one behind and giving enabling environment for all youths in their diversities. That is, in a nutshell, what the Make Way program is about. So after the short introduction, I will go ahead again and just introduce the first presenter who will take us through the various tools. Make Way has various tools that it uses in doing its lobby and advocacy, and we are having like 8 tools. So we are going to have various facilitators taking us through various tools that we anticipate to go through. So I will just go ahead and introduce the first facilitator. We are also going to have a chat box. You can drop in anything if you wish to have, if you have any concern. We are also going to have a Mentimeter that is going to enable us to share our views. So let me go ahead and introduce the first facilitator who is going to take us through the intersectional See, Judge, and Act tool to take over kindly. Thank you. Maggie, if you are here, please, you can go ahead. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Sylvester. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Great to be here. I was so worried about my power, but at least I have some little charge in my laptop, so I'm able to attend. Intersectional See, Judge, and Act. What is it all about? This is grounded on the understanding that in order to address a challenge or a problem, it is important not just to focus on the problem, but also to actually the root cause of the problem. And so the Intersectional See, Judge, and Act, we ask ourselves what the problem is by seeing. Then we get into the judge aspect where we look at the root cause of the problem. And the act aspect is looking at what are the strategies that one should be able to use to address the problem. So the problem at face value have root causes, but then it's not just about the root causes. Also, what is it that can be done to create the change that you want to see? Yes. The Intersectional See, Judge, and Act integrates medical science, human rights, religion, and culture. Now, what does this mean? We integrate the science as an aspect of, the health of the individual. But we also look at human rights, the impact of religion, as well as the culture within which one originates. We say that faith and religion matters. Faith and religion also, in the fact that they matter, they have consequential effects. but there are times that faith and religion and culture have been a barrier. But then what we are trying to do with this tool is to transform religion and culture from being barriers to agencies within which change can occur. What we say is that if something is problematic and it can also be part of a solution, then it is useful for whatever is a problem to be turned into a source for solution. When we talk about interpretive wounds, what we say is that language within religion and culture sometimes has been used to confine, discriminate, prejudice, and to make people to present people to be what they are not. And so some of the interpretations out of culture and religion sometimes have been hurtful to the people. And so what we say is, how then do we interpret the language that is used in religion and culture in a manner that it can heal the wounds that it has caused? How then do we achieve this? By reinterpreting beliefs grounded on culture and grounded in religion. And in religion, we look at the sacred texts, and we look at texts that have predominantly been used as weapons, and to see how best we can transform them into tools for healing, tools for justice, and tools for advocacy. Next slide. So Intersectional SRHR and Act has its holistic vision that looks at issues of conversation around sexual and reproductive health within three, in a sort of in a way that appreciates the health-based approach, the right-based approach, as well as the value-based approach. Now, in the health-based approach, that is something that I already talked about, that the health-based approach looks at health as science and borrows heavily from the professional understanding of what SRHR is. And as we look at that, then we therefore suggest that whatever kind of interpretations that are done, we need to retain the science and the data and its effect to the young people without allowing religion and culture to subjugate and to make it impossible for anyone to be able to achieve any help that they are supposed to be able to get as a result of their health. And on this one, we partner with health professionals to be able to give the professional aspect of health. But of course, also there is also the right-based approach around human health, which is basically based upon the universal human rights principles. And on this one, we look at it from an advocacy point of view by asking and allowing people to gain the voice where they are capable of speaking their own issues, being able to be a voice, not just being invited on the table, but also to be able to create their own table, place their issues on the table, and discuss the issues as they were. And therefore, in the right-based approach, we go more of context-based, age-appropriate, looking at the people, expressing and talking about their lived experiences in a manner that somebody else is talking on their behalf, but it is themselves that are capable of talking. And so we empower the youths to be a voice, and not just a voiceless, but in that voice that they are capable of expressing their pain, their lived experiences, but also how best they would want to chart the way forward around issues of health. The value-based approach is grounded on the fact that health and many decisions that human beings make are based on the values that they have. And therefore, it is important that at whatever point we are carrying the values that we hold, that they do not in any way make it impossible for human beings to retain their dignity and also to pursue justice. And so what we say is what one great theologian called John Henry Okulu once said, that take away your love, but give me justice. And so what we talk about is not necessarily that we must agree and that we must love each other, but in our disagreement, we must be compassionate, we must pursue justice, we must dignify others, and we must make others feel as full human beings, regardless of what we feel about whatever values that we hold against them. So that is the holistic vision of the ISJA model. Next slide. So ISJA model as a nexus between policy, budget, and healthcare services. And so we look at the whole question of how then does values, beliefs, practices allow people to judge in a manner that they impact laws and policies. But then in the long run, what we pursue is inclusive policies and laws that are capable of appreciating the intersectionality of the individual identities, but by making spaces to be safe for people. So we look at the policy impact even within the religious spaces, the policy impact within the health where people are able to get health services. We look at the general policy impact and how that impacts, say, budget, service delivery, and things like that. And so on the question of budget prioritization, then our focus when we are implementing the ISJA is equity-focused budget allocation. What we say is let people get what they deserve, and that health service is not a token of appreciation. Health service is a right, and whatever kind of allocation in terms of budgeting should be done based on the principles of equity. And in appreciation of the magnitude of the challenges that people have. People of disability may not have similar challenges as people who may not be disabled. The age and all the intersectional questions that define identity are things that need to be looked at as budget is being allocated. Now, on the service delivery, again, we look at the question of inclusivity in services around the intersectional perspective. And so what then do we try to do in a nutshell? What we are trying to say is, can we make our church or rather religious spaces to be safe, to be accessible, and to be places where people are able to discuss without being judged issues of reproductive health and sexual and reproductive health and rights. And number two, can religious leaders themselves engage by including some of these issues within their sermons? And number three, how then can we use sacred texts in a way that they are more life-affirming? So in a nutshell, that is all about intersectional, see, judge, and act. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Evans Nyensi from Kenya. And that was a nice explanation on how you're using the tool to at least demystify religious beliefs and also to advocate for sexual and reproductive health and rights. Thank you so much for that session. And as I had said, for those who are joining us, we are having 8 tools that is to be discussed, and we have just finished on the first one, that is the intersectional see, judge, and act tool that is being used by the Make Way program. And I will wish to just go straight ahead and introduce our next facilitator from Zambia. She'll introduce herself and also give us a small view about another tool that is called the Intersectional Community Scorecard, so that we can also have a view on how the tool is being used and how it uses various diversities to make sure that everybody has access to sexual and reproductive health and rights. Thank you so much, Mwenya, and you are welcome to take over. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Hi, Mulibwanji, all the way from Zambia. And I'm Mwenye Mbayamba, and I work for Basic Theatre, and this is an organization under Make Way project, and it's a CP, which is a collaborating partner. So my The two I'm going to talk about is the Intersectional Community Scorecard. And this is a tool that allows marginalized youth who are users of public services and also to engage with service providers and as well as health workers. And the service providers could be stakeholders or gatekeepers, and the health workers are service providers from their health facilities. They also, and the tool is actually used to assess the acceptability, the accessibility, and the affordability, as well as the quality of sexual and reproductive health and rights services in the communities. And so what the community scorecard is for, it is used as one of the tools that allows to promote social accountability, as well as to help people deliver tangible results by encouraging interaction between service providers, as well as improve services in the communities. And the community scorecard, as you can see on the screen, has about 5 phases. And the first one is mainly for planning and preparations. And under this one, the goal for this one is to just make sure that the people that are conducting the scorecard prepare in advance and make sure that the scorecard is used according to the guideline, because there's a guideline for it. And the second phase is actually what we use to conduct the Intersectional Community Scorecard with the marginalized youth. And with this, we use the scorecard to interact with the young people in the communities. And this is where the young people come and learn about their rights, their sexual rights. And during this phase, this is where the tool is actually used to teach young people on the AAQ, which I just mentioned earlier. And phase 3 of the community scorecard is also about conducting the intersectional community scorecards with the service providers that are identified in that area. And this phase is where problems are identified and most are relevant for the ICASC based on the target group, which could be the health facility, as well as the young people that have been identified, and also how to handle the capacity that has been given to the young people. And also under phase 3, this is where issues are generated, as well as are validated and evaluated through the issues that the young people have highlighted. However, these issues that the young people present in phase 2 are presented to the service providers, so that there is a relationship between them and the duty bearers, as well as the service providers in the communities. And then we have phase 4. This is actually where you can see there's the marginalized youth, as well as governments and decision makers. And then there's also health providers. This phase actually is like the central part of the ICS2. And the aim of this interface is to actually meet and discuss ways of improving the intersectional service provision by making sure that there's evidence from the scorecard exercise. And also under this central part of the tool is to ensure that there is ideal results from this process. And this is by making sure that there's a consensus that is reached on the intersectional service delivery in that community or at the health facility that has been identified. Also to make sure that there's an action plan towards the enhanced performance, which is monitored, as well as to ensure that there is change being enforced in the communities. So this is one of the meetings, actually, that's why it's called an interface meeting. So this is where the young people, the service providers, as well as the stakeholders meet and discuss and form what they call an action plan. And after that, there's gonna be like follow-up after this action plan is actually formed. And the last, kindly reduce the screen for me. I cannot read the last part. Hello, can you hear me? Yes. So the last part, or should I say the last phase, which is phase 5 of the community scorecard, is actually where the action plan is implemented. And then there's monitoring, as well as this is the part where the building of capacity with the civil societies, as well as other organizations that are involved. And this part is used for lobby and advocacy for health system strengthening. So it's basically the part where everybody comes together and try and lobby, as well as the community together. Next slide. So thank you so much. That was my presentation.
Thank you so much, Mwenya, for such a wonderful presentation. For those joining us, we have the chat. For those joining us, we have the chat box. You can drop in your recommendations, your opinions as the presentation is going on. And even for those who are joining late, we have transcriptions in 3 languages. We are having English, we are having French, and we are having Portuguese. So you can just tap on the icon that is written transcribed, and then you choose the language that you feel comfortable with. So we are still continuing with these tools that Make Way use to do its advocacy on sexual and reproductive health and rights. And for the purposes of time, I'll just go ahead and introduce the third facilitator. That is Angela Kioko from Kenya, so that she can also take us through the budget analysis and the budget process and everything about budget. So thank you so much, Angie, and feel welcome to take us through this session. Thank you.
Sorry. So my name is Angela Kioko. I'll be taking you through the budget checklist analysis. Allow me to switch off my camera so that the center stage can be on the sign language interpreter. Thank you. So the budget analysis tool is a tool that allows us to analyze budget documents and develop strategies to conduct budget documents, budget advocacy. And the objective of the tool is basically to influence our budget at all stages so that we can be able to increase and better spend the resources for SRHR and youth and for youth leaving no one behind generally. So the budget cycle normally has 4 stages in all contexts, and the first stage is budget formulation. This is where the budgets are formulated, the budget ceilings are set, and it's like the planning phase of the budget cycle. We then have the budget approval, where the plans are approved. They are mostly tabled in parliaments and county assemblies in the Kenyan context for approval. And then after that, we have the budget execution or the budget implementation, where the plans are actually implemented through actions and plans. And the final stage is budget evaluation, where we're basically looking at how the implementation worked, the accountability aspect of it all, and checking the expenditure. So that is basically the budget cycle. It has 4 stages. And then we have the process of how we can use the checklist. So the process has several steps, step 1 to 6, and allow me to take you through the steps. So the first step is identifying which budget you want to actually analyze. Budgets have different categories. You might look at the health budget in general, or you might look at the program-based budgets, where you're talking about reproductive health budgets now, specific. The program-based budgets are more specific. So in this stage, you actually select which budget you want to analyze, and the institution that has this budget, and also the accessibility of the budget document. We also have the second stage, which is looking for additional information. You might now look at the previous budgets that are similar to the budget that you want to analyze. You might look at the financial reports, the narrative reports, just to compare the budget that you want to analyze. So basically, you're getting more information to be able to guide you in regard to the analysis of the budget that you want to analyze, that you have mapped out. The third stage would be to map out allies and movement building. So it's important to actually not do budget advocacy as an individual, because you might find there are partners who have already started the process, who already have networks and allies within the duty bearers side. So you might want to map out actors who are advocating for the same budgets that you're also advocating, to be able to build up on what they already have, and also go in as a movement, because most of the time when you're working on budget analysis, you're talking about government. So holding government to check and account is also important to do it as a movement in order to be able to reduce the risks that might come with budget analysis and budget advocacy in general. So the fourth stage would be understanding and mapping out budget cycle. Of course, since we are different people from different aspects, there are different ways in which the budget cycle might look according to our different context. But you, sorry. You're able to map out the budget cycle. So as I took you guys through the budget cycle earlier, it has 4 stages and each stage has a different document. So for the planning stage, there are different documents that come with that. For the approval stage, the execution, and the evaluation stage. So when you map out the budget cycle, you're able to map out also which document you're gonna use to conduct the analysis. The 5th stage would be strategizing, how you're gonna go about each stage. So each stage requires, I see a comment from Sheila.
It's okay, Angie, continue.
Okay. So each stage requires a different type of strategy. For the planning documents, it requires a different way of analyzing them. For the evaluation and also for the implementation, it requires different things. Like for the implementation, you might use some strategies that involve social accountability and actually going out to look at the reports that look at the implementation, or if there are projects like building facilities or development and construction, you might actually go out to the field and look at the implementation and how that goes. So each stage requires a different type of strategy. And then the final stage would be to document the findings and the gaps that were able to be identified during the whole process. I'll give an example of where I come from. So we were actually advocating for an increment in the reproductive health budget, but then we realized that the gap is not in the budget line, but the gap is in the absorption rate by the department. So this gap came out during the budget evaluation process. We're able to look at this, we're able to find this gap during the budget evaluation by going through the reports from the Department of Economic and Planning. So that is just an example on how one issue can come out, a gap can come out that might not necessarily
just continue. The issue is
at the budget formulation. Sorry, Sylvester, are you saying something?
No, it's okay. I'm just saying, just continue.
Okay, so basically that is it. The process of the budget advocacy. So this process basically gives you how you're gonna be able to map out the issues, map out the budget documents, build up allies, and also the strategies that you need to put in place in order for you to conduct the budget advocacy. Thank you, Sylvester.
Thank you very much, Angie, for such a wonderful presentation. Hi, everyone. As we had said, we are having the chat box, and we encourage sharing our inputs and our views through the chat box, and we will respond to them appropriately as they keep on streaming. So thank you so much, Angie, for the budget analysis, and we are still continuing on the explanation of the Make Way tools that Make Way uses to do its advocacy. And another tool, the next tool that we are going to focus on, the fourth one, is on the meaningful youth engagement. And on the meaningful youth engagement, we are going to be taken through by a facilitator from Rwanda, and that is Fiat Mabazi. And I would wish to introduce her so that she can also have at least to take us through the meaningful youth engagement as another tool that is being used by the Make Way program. Fiat, you can cover kindly.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Mbabazi Fiete. I'm from Rwanda, from Non-Work Develop, a CP under FAWE as our country coordinating group. Thank you very much. I'll be talking about meaningful youth engagement as one of the tools Make Way uses in advocacy of inclusive SRHR So what you need to know on the meaningful youth participation or engagement is this tool helps us to create inclusive opportunity and platform for youth to actively participate in decision-making on policies, strategies, and programs that affect them. So I'm also going to go under the process of this tool. As the time is not on our side, I'll just be hinting on every process and we continue. The first process is understanding and defining youth. So different contexts have definitions of young people according to their context. For instance, in Rwanda here, a youth is defined as someone who is 16 to 30 years age, whereas UN defines a youth as someone who is has a age range from 15 to 24. So it depends on how different country contexts define young people or youth. Thereafter defining it will help you to map out the people or the young people you want to use in your different programs. The second one is understanding meaningful youth engagement. How do you actually engage youth inclusively without leaving any youth behind? We have seen different organizations trying to engage youth, but again, engaging them in a wrong way. For example, manipulation, tokenism, decollation. Organizations call young people to just sit in a meeting just to see that there was a representation of young people. So this is a very big concern on how you actually engage young people meaningfully. There's also importance of youth engagement. So in youth engagement, it helps us to make informed decisions. We see different organizations coming up with solutions, but they do not actually engage young people to know where the issue is. So it's very important to always consult young people on what they think the issue is, on what they think the solutions could be, and so that from there, organizations can be able to create effective solutions to issues affecting young people. As we said, we are advocating for SRHR. We've seen teenage pregnancies rising up every day, mostly in our countries. I mean, it could be affecting, I think, East African countries and the rest of the countries here. So we need to know what is really causing the teenage pregnancies, and the teenage pregnancies we're talking about from young people or youth. So with that, it helps us to make informed decisions by involving young people. And we also need to know that we need to involve young people from right away from the designing of our projects to the implementation or to the execution of our projects. So we do not want to bring them as in the end, in the implementation of the projects, just to act as representatives in our projects or programs. So with these processes, there are quite a lot of different processes, but yeah, I was gonna ask Sylvester to bring more levels of youth engagement, ladders of participation. So we also need to understand that it is important to build capacity of young people. You're not just going to engage them in the designing in every process, but also you need to build their capacity. You need to give them platforms. You need to educate them on a particular or certain concept you're trying to bring on the table, so that they can be informed. So there are different levels. There is mainstreaming of them in different programs and so on. There's also strategies for engaging with youth at a community level. Make sure young people are able to partner with with different in different activities at a community level, so that they can own such activities that mostly are trying to solve their issues. So make sure you try to collaboration with community partnership. There's also educating them, or education support programs for young people. So these are things or strategies that you can use to engage young people at different levels of the community. Sustaining effective youth engagement. So we are not talking about meaningful youth engagement to just let it, or to just implement or implement it for a short period. We want it to be sustainable. We want it to be something that is impacting the community for such a long period. So you should also know how you should bring up strategies of sustaining effective youth engagement. Do not only engage them in one project and that is the end, or one program and that is the end. We want continuous representation and meaningful youth engagement of young people in different programs, and also building their capacity. I'm trying to rush, and where we've not understood, you can always put it in the chat box so I can highlight more on that. But with this, allow me, and thank you very much, Sylvester, for this time.
Thank you so much, Mbabazi, from such an explicit explanation. And as we are still continuing, for those who are joining us right now, we are having the chat box, please, so that you can put your concerns or any view. We are also having a transcription in various languages, Portuguese, French, and English. In case you are having a challenge with any other language, you can just change and go with the language that you feel most comfortable with. So we were focusing on the meaningful youth participation. So I will just go ahead and again introduce another facilitator that will take us through another tool that Make Way use, and that is the Intersectional Communication Tools. And we are going to be facilitated or guided by Corinne Mwebaze from Uganda, and she will take us through the whole of this process. Thank you so much, Corinne. Let me welcome you to take over.
Thank you, Sylvester, for this moment. My name is Mwebaze Corinne from Uganda. And the first tool I want to take you through under communication tools in the Make Way program is the developing an intersectional communication and media strategy. If you could show the slide of the first tool. So when you look at this tool, it helps us for our lobby and advocacy work. And it has 10 steps. And I wouldn't want to go through all the steps because of time. However, we have a template that will be shared in the group that will that will provide and guidance on how we actually do our communication. I'll simply give an example on the first one, which is identify the issue and objectives. Under this, you can see in our template, if you're able to open it, you can see creating, like, for example, it can creating more awareness for violence against women and girls. You just have to first identify the objectives, then, and then the issue itself. Then you definitely identify your audience. Who are they that you're talking to? Get to know them so that you can be able to actually communicate to them. I will let them do the slide so you can be able to read a hint on all those steps, because there are 10. The 11th is just more of an additional knowledge on how to do communication. Next slide. Then the other one is intersectional messaging, and this is a very important one. With intersectional messaging, we have, I'm going to talk about evaluating authentic voices. So most of the times when people are doing communication, they use people as pictures. For example, if you're working with young persons with disabilities, you're just going to put them in a room and not being able to communicate or speak for themselves during their advocacy. So for this tool particularly, it gives you an ability for the young people themselves, if they're young people in rural areas, to speak authentically using their voices. If they're writing a message or writing an article about young girls in rural areas, they're the ones to write. Maybe you can help edit, but their voices are able to be shown and used or speaking for themselves. The next slide. Then we go for the checklist. Now the checklist is where most of us feel like, oh, I'm communicating, how come I'm not getting this visibility most of the times? Why? Because most of the times you're going to create something, let's say, for example, the written communication, you're not going to use the right fonts, you're not going to use the right, the right fonts, you're not going to use the colors that the contrast that you're giving your image, most of the times it's not the right one. So when you're dealing with something like a written communication, you have to avoid jargon so that your message is very clear. It has to be as short as possible so that people can be able to read it, because like, it's .com. Many young people don't have time to just be there and read a whole article. So make the message as short as it can go. And then you have to have like visibility. We know we are dealing with very many young people and of different diversities. Are they reading it clearly? Which language is it in? And so many others. I would not be able to go through all of them, but that is where my presentation will stop for today.
Thank you so much, Corinne, for taking us through intersectional messaging and how it is important in our advocacy work. And we are continuing with other tools. And just as a reminder, we are sharing the tools via the chat box, so that at least everyone, there is a link that is being shared in the chat box so that everyone can have access. Please, for those joining us, you can go through the chat box and have access if you may want to review these tools. And I'm sure you'll also be guided on the Make Way Toolkit, where we'll access most of them. So we are continuing, and we want to focus on another thing, and that is intersectionality 101. And before we focus on intersectionality 101, we want to at least collect some views. We have some feedback, at least get some feedback from participants, and we are going to use Mentimeter that we are going to use to collect our feedback. And I'm sure Shures will share the Mentimeter so that at least we can scan the code and at least there's some questions, there's some concerns there that we can respond to. And also for the visually impaired, because we are having various diversities here. For the visually impaired, we will read the code for the Mentimeter. So for most of us that we are here, you can just go to menti.com. Just in your browser, Chrome or Google, just type menti.com. And once you've typed menti.com, there is a code that has been shared. I'll just read the code and then invite Suresh kindly. The code is, let me just confirm, the code is 59. Once you've typed menti.com, log in, then you enter the code. The code has been shared in the chat box. That is 59588350. For those who can scan, the scanning bar, you can use your phone to scan, as it has been shared on the presentation, so that you can have access to the questions that we may have to have your feedbacks on. Suresh, kindly I can invite so that you can at least have more inputs on the same.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, we are already seeing people responding to the Menti. So I think we are doing good. So yeah, so we copied the code that you can use in menti.com. We have 6 responses so far. I'm sharing the result of the Menti in real time, so you can see it on your screen.
Thank you. For those joining, we are at least taking some break, and we are having some concerns. We are having some feedback mechanism here, so we posted a link that you can scan. There is a barcode here that you can scan, and for those who may not access it, there is a code that has been shared in the chat box. You can just enter the code and you give your responses on the questions that have been shared. I think once we reach quorum, Suresh, you can guide so that we continue as people continue to share their responses.
We are total 50+ participants and 23 responses. So maybe, yeah, waiting for about a minute would be good, because this is the first Menti slide. And then on the second slide, we might get like immediate response. Then they don't have to go in the link or use the code. They can just use the same Menti, but the next slide, it will be quicker in the next Menti question.
Thank you.
Just a moment. Yeah, I have also shared the link in the chat. If you are having trouble accessing the Menti using the code, then you can click the link. Now I think I will change the slide. So we'll go to question 2. It's okay, we have 30 response already.
So as we are continuing to share our responses, so far we focus on the intersectional SRHR and tool, intersectional community scorecard, meaningful youth engagement, and the intersectional messaging. These are some of the tools that Make Way uses to do its lobby and advocacy towards realization of sexual and reproductive health and rights. They are very diverse tools, and they focus on touching on every aspect of humanity and making sure that when we are doing our advocacy, lobby and advocacy as organizations, no one is left behind and every aspect of humanity is taken into consideration. So as we are still collecting, we are still responding to the questions in the Mentimeter, those are some of the tools that we've focused on, and we want to focus on the next tool after the Mentimeter responses, and call it a day, a morning, an evening, or a night. So let's just continue collecting our feedback. Suresh, you can guide if you can maybe go to the next question once the quorum is reached.
Yeah, a moment. Then I will share the third question. And once we have done responding to that, then maybe I will reshare the first slide and like these 3 slides, and you can summarize the result of Mentimeter.
Yeah, and you can.
And we have third question: which personal identity makes you feel the most proud? We have same options in terms of identities. So
Suresh, you can also maybe read some of the responses that are at least taking over the day, so that we can also get some of the responses on the feedback randomly.
So this is real-time response. The slide that I'm showing it on the screen only be able to, like, participants will be able to see only that slide and respond to. So yeah, we have 29 responses so far.
And we also have the chat box. For those who are joining, we can also have our inputs in the chat box. In case of anything, there are also links shared there. You can access the links. In case of any concern, you just raise in the chat box.
Yeah, I think we can move to the fourth question. This is something you need to type up. So what hidden identities can people have? In
case you're having any challenge with the Mentimeter, feel free to share in the chat box to be read kindly.
Yeah, I'm copying pasting the link again if someone could not access the earlier chat, if someone joined later. So are there any identities then people can have and maybe hidden?
To the fifth.
So there are responses coming up, and we can see the result in word cloud. So bigger the number of responses to particular identity, that will become much larger in size. So sexual orientation is most responded response. So far we have 14 response. Yes, we are still receiving some more responses.
The quorum is reached. You can move to the links. Is it okay? Suresh, is it done?
Yeah. Would you like to talk about the outcome of the Menti? So this is the first question. We have total 31 responses, and most people said education level is one of the identity that gives most privilege. but we have socioeconomic status, we have to some extent religion, sexual orientation or gender, and race ethnicity in the response. In the second slide, we have socioeconomic status as most vulnerable, that the identity that makes people most vulnerable. So I'm assuming, for example, poverty in terms of the response that I have seen here. So we have sexual orientation, gender, ability or disability, education level, again, age and race or ethnicity. In the second question, in terms of responses. Third question, we have the identity that makes you feel the most proud is mostly its educational level, and then some responses on religion, socioeconomic status, and gender, and also ethnicity or race. And for the fourth one, we have 15 responses, and you can see sexual orientation, gender identity are the main kind of identities that we received in the response to this Menti. And I think this is something next presenter could use as example if they want to in their slide. We're done with Menti right now. So Mr. Back to you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Nuresh, for helping in that. So we are continuing with the tools, and now the tool that we want to focus on is Intersectionality 101, the mother of everything. I think it's the cornerstone of discussion for today. So I will go ahead and invite our last pre-facilitator, and that is Maggie Muke from Zambia, and she'll be taking us through Intersectionality 101, talking about intersectionality and power. Maggie, can you hear me kindly, that you take over?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much, Vesta. So my name is Maggie Muke. I'm from Zambia. I'm coming from an organization called Save Environment and People Agency. So like my colleagues have said, we're going to talk about intersectionality and power. So there is, when you look at my screen, there is this statement here. I want you all guys to look at my screen, the screen, and just read this statement. It says, there is no such things as a single issue struggle because we do not live a single issue lives. What do you think this means? Pause a little bit and think about this statement. So have we all thought about it? Yes. What does this mean? So this means that maybe I can have one person to just have their view on what this means. Maybe Sylvester, you can help me just, let me talk to one person who can just tell us what this statement means. I can't see anyone.
Okay, any person, you can just unmute or you can raise up your hand and then you share. Or you can even share in the chat box, Maggie, as they can share in the chat box their opinions as you are continuing.
Okay, thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So this statement.
Is it okay if I can
Yes, you
say
can go ahead.
something?
Maggie,
Yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah, like according to the statement, like literally to me, it means like in life we have got no any reason at whatsoever that anyone should struggle. I think basically that's what Rodri meant.
Thank you very much, Regina, for that response. But let's try to learn more about what this statement means. So this statement, like it's saying, there's no such thing as a single issue struggle because we do not live as a single issue life. So what this means is that no one lives a single issue struggle. All of us, we have multiple issues that affect us. Okay, so no one is just experiencing one issue. No one is just, for example, I'll give you those answers you were giving. For example, disability. If we say someone has a disability, these people are not just experiencing a disability, because someone could be a woman and they have a disability. And of course, maybe they are not educated. So all of us, we do not just live a single issue lives. We have multiple issues that we struggle with daily because of our identities that we have. And so it's very important for us to look at a person holistically, because this person experiences a lot of things because of the identity that they have. Okay, so that's what this statement means. So instead, most of us occupy multiple positions like in life because of our racial backgrounds, because of the class that we're talking about. Like I said, you might look at a person in terms of gender, maybe they're female, but that being female does not only mean that you have that one identity, you have multiple identities. So this is what this statement means. I can go to the next slide. Yes. So so how does this the statement that we read connect to intersectionality? Remember, we were talking about intersectionality and power. So again, we will talk about what intersectionality is. What is intersectionality and what does it mean? So for us to understand very well, let us talk about what is intersecting. Remember, when we were in school, we used to learn about intersectional mathematics. So what it is right now, we are going to look at the word intersectionality, but we are going to get the first words where we are going to look at it as intersecting. So what is intersecting when we talk about intersectionality? What is intersecting? So I'll give you an example of a road. There are two roads that are crossing. So where they are meeting there is what is intersecting. Okay. So where they're meeting, that's what is intersecting. So for example, we talked about our identities. So when we talk about one person who is experiencing, who is a female, they have multiple identities that are intersecting. So for example, ethnicity. There's a person maybe who is a female, maybe she's 21 years old. She's maybe a Christian or a Muslim. All those identities actually affect that person, and they get to experience those different kind of barriers that they might face because of their identities that they have. So intersectionality actually is very important to us because it helps us understand what people go through beyond the gender that we see. Okay, so also intersecting power relations influences social relationship across the diverse society, individual experience in everyday's life. So that's what it is. So when we talk about categories like race, class, gender, sexuality, and national, all these actually affects one's person. So you cannot just say, okay, me, I'm a female, it ends there. Even when we are looking at, like if we want to help someone, we cannot just say, okay, Maggie, we're a female, but what about other things that affect me, that comes with being female? That's, comes with me being a person, those things that I go through, me being Black, me having a different culture. So all those things helps us to understand. Then also the interrelated and maturity shaping one another. So we need to know that when we are working with people or we are doing sexual reproductive health rights, we need to look at the young people holistically. What is beyond being young? What is being? What are they experiencing? because of being young. What if that person is young and they are female? What are some of the things that they go through? So that is very, very important to us. So again, I would want us to just, understand what intersectionality is, which talks about, we want to have the definition, which is intersectionality is the frame of understanding how different aspects of personal identities, such as race, gender, sexuality, class, ability, and other categories intersect and interact to create unique experiences of discrimination and privilege. Okay, so I hope we've understood on what intersectionality is and how this can bring about us identifying one's identities that can hinder, that can give them privileges, or that can give them, can let them be vulnerable. So we need to realize that most of the times our friends also experience these things. So why does it matter? Why is it important that we look at intersectionality? So it's very important for us to look at intersectionality because we experience oppression differently. However, intersectionality reviews what it is not seen. Okay, so we talked about intersectionality be able to help us beyond what you can see. This person is just a woman, but she's not just a woman because she has a lot of identities. Maybe she works, maybe she's a mother, she's an auntie. All those things, intersectionality makes sure that we see beyond what others cannot see. So again, intersectionality enables us to, discrimination is a blended experience, and also intersectionality is a lens through which we view the world. And the other thing is that justice and inequality of any kind is an expression of power and symptom of power structures. Okay, so this is very important, and that's why we need, in everything that we do, we need to embed intersectionality in our program so that it can help us identify some of the challenges that people go through with different identities. And also the changing power equation and intersectionality is about changing, power equation. So what intersectionality does is about changing the power equation that we see. And then also within the groups and between group power dynamics. So that's what intersectionality does. And it's very important for us. No wonder Make Way is making sure that in all the programs that we are doing, we are using intersectionality so that it can help us identify the most vulnerable people, and so that they cannot be left behind. Next slide, please. So as we can see, this diagram here that we have, this diagram here, it's helping us to identify some of the various layers that influence on an individual. So as you can see, first we have an individual, which is at the center. It shows the individual's corner aspect, such as their thinking, skills, knowledge, and networks. And this represents the person's inner strengths and abilities. Again, we are looking at the internal. The layer includes factors related to personal identity, such as age, national origin, ethnicity, physical, mental ability, gender, and sexual orientation. So these are some of the things that we should look out when we are trying to work with young people. And then also we would look at external. What are we talking about when we say external? So the layers includes more situation factors like citizenship, appearance, culture, influence, work context, field, and all those that come with the external. And then lastly, we'll talk about the organization. So when we need to look at the organization in terms of focusing on the elements, such as working place structures, policies, culture, and these factors impact impact us on how the individual operates within a specific situation and a group. Okay, so what about the error? So the error outermost layer represents the broader, okay, the broader historic and social context, including historic events, culture, and all those that would also help us to identify certain individuals and how organization and other external layers can help us, you know, influence an individual's behaviors and opportunities. We can go to the next slide, please. So again, intersectionality is important because it helps us to recognize our difference and understand how this difference shape our experience in the world. I believe I talked about this, but for the emphasis on why Make Way is using the intersectionality, it is important for us, all of us in here, to actually, if you've never heard about intersectionality, I'm sure the slides are going to be shared, but this is why Make Way is also using the intersectionality. Again, intersectionality makes us aware of power and privilege. So we do have power and privilege in our communities. So who has it? Okay, and who does not? And this serves as a starting point for truly inclusive equity and justice. So for us, if we just understand those people who have the power in the community, those people who does not have, it is going to help us to actually have equity programs that can help the people who doesn't have power to also have the privilege of being not being left behind. So let's talk about power. I believe we've been talking about power in most of the presentation that I was doing. So the privilege and power, like we have a lot of types of power. I won't talk about what is power because we don't have time. So we'll talk about 4 different types of power. So we have the power within. So the power within, this is the confidence and the fearing of self-worth. So what does that mean? So it means that we identify our self-worth and also the identities and values that we have. It also means that it also describes the sense of confidence and dignity and self-esteem that comes from gaining awareness of one's situation and realizing the possibility of doing something about it. Okay, so what is power to? What is power to? So power to know, pursue, and achieve one's interest, to have the capacity. So this also, it just means that we ourselves are empowered. For us to have the capacity or to achieve one's interest, we need to be empowered. And so this helps us to also help others in our own capacity. Again, power with. What does that mean? So power with actually basically just means collective groups and collaboration. Power with is often used to describe how those faced with over or confident domination can act to address their situation. Again, time, sorry, I'm getting a lot of time. So we will also talk about power over. So power over also is an external control over others. So here is a person who has this power others. So this power is also not very good. We wouldn't encourage it. And also, it also means that power can also be exercised by influencing what others think they can do or even imagine as possible. It can also affect the ways in which people view themselves and their rights and capabilities. I believe all of us have gone through that. We've seen these powers within us where we're just saying, okay, I can do this, I'm empowered. Then we also seen even our bosses where sometimes they can, you know, they have this power and they're abusing it, they use it over us. And so because of time, we're not doing a lot of interaction, but it's okay. We'll share these slides. So power with is, I think we can go to the next slide. We've talked about power with. Thank you very much. So what is this, the source of power? Where do people, you know, get this power? Where are they getting it? So we have the mechanism of action. We also have age, you know, just in our families when we're growing up, when you are young, you don't even have anything to say, but older people, they actually feel like, you know, they have power over everyone because they're elderly in the family. And then capital, people, because of they have financials, they are natural, you know, they are physical, social, you know, social, human, you know, capital, all those. They actually feel like, okay, because I'm financially stable, then I can, you know, have this power or whatever power they want to have because they have something that is, you know, giving them an advantage. Then we also talk about families, like I said, age, where a family or your parents, they have the power over you. And also we have tradition and culture location. I believe if you come from a village where I come from, there are people who have this culture, you know, it just gives them power, like traditional leaders and others. Then we also have information. If you have information, like for example, you get this information here that there's intersectionality, we have budget analysis, communication, and other things. You begin to use that information. It's either within or to and other things. It gives you also that power that you can use, and basically other things. So because of time, can we go to the next slide, please? Yes, thank you very much for that. So power analysis and question. So this is very important because for us to understand who has the power in our communities, we need to ask ourselves these questions. Who has the power? What actors? Which organization? Which institution? Okay, where? What context or level or spaces are they, you know, looking at? And also what sectors and issues and power is it coming from? All these are very important for us to actually look at and discern from what is really happening in our community. Because if we know where the power is coming from, it's very important for us to understand. So what, like I said, what aspects of poverty, marginalized are being addressed? What changes are you trying to affect? What kinds of power and relationships are relevant to their right to be heard? So this is very, very important. Why? What is the motivation? So what are the interests motivating actors or organization for or against the change that is happening? So that's how we talk about these aspects. So again, how, what strategies, methods, and modules are they using? What strategies, approaches are used for responding to the above? What is the logical behind the choice of partners, allies, and actors? And also, what are the roles and strategies in the work they support or carry? What are the models of change and understanding of the power and relationship? So that is very important for us if we want to actually identify in our communities on who are actors of certain voices, whose voice is trying to be heard, who is directly helping the voices to be heard. So for example, I'll give you an example. In our community, we have, I live in a rural area, so we have some rural communities that need to be heard. For example, young people. So these we identify young people that
Maggie, you
to be heard, and also where, what context and levels and spaces. Hello, so I'm almost done, Sylvester. I know I'm almost done. So this is the last stage space. So where do we want to see change? Yes, where do we want to see change? So this one is when we look at individuals and families and peers and communities, what are we, do we want to see change at individuals? Remember, change begins from the family. So from a family, we look at an individual, then we look at a family and other partners and other actors. So we also have peers where we look at roles and policies and resources and allocation. We also look at communities and society. So this is where we want to see change. So the change can be formal or informal, and also, like I said, individuals, and that brings to society. So when our change starts from an individual, obviously the society is going to be changed as well. So we can go to the next slide. Yes, so however, we are going to have a video right now. So thank you very much. I hope the presentation was helpful.
Thank you for that, Maggie. Then take a few minutes to play the video so that it will help in adding up on what Maggie has said. So Suresh, are you the one playing the video kindly so that
Yes. Yes. Can you hear the sound? Is it
ensure that everybody realizes their
Yes, we can hear it.
Okay.
SRHR, regardless of their identities? Let's take a look at it. SRHR stands for Sexual and Reproductive Health and Rights. It means everyone should be able to make informed decisions about relationships, their bodies, family planning, sexuality, and well-being without stigma or discrimination. There are fundamental human rights that allow you to decide whether, when, and whom to marry, have a sexual relationship with, choose contraceptives, and decide whether and when to have a child or children, and have access to the information, resources, and services necessary to achieve this. With SRHR, all people can have loving relationships based on mutual respect, a safe and self-decided family life, and self-esteem. However, some people cannot access SRHR because there are legal, economic, and social barriers that are linked to their personal situation, such as financial capacity, religion, gender, age, whom they love, the type of disability they have, and where they live. Our many different identities can create privilege, while others cause discrimination. And in some cases, when these identities overlap, they create higher barriers. So, how do we ensure that everybody can realize their SRHR regardless of their personal situation? We can apply an intersectional lens to our work. This helps us recognize and understand how our differences shape our experience in the world and makes us aware of power and privilege, who has it and who does not. It is a starting point for truly inclusive equity and justice work. So, how does it work? We analyze the root causes of the barriers people encounter. We change policies and societal norms to transform systems of oppression. And finally, we amplify the voices and experiences of those with marginalized identities in our institutions. When we use an intersectional lens, we ensure no one is left behind and everyone can realize their SRHR.
Thank you very much for the video. We are time bound, having like only 19 minutes left to go. So because of that, we are going to have a short plenary. We are not going to have recap sessions. We're just going to have a short plenary, and we were just having one concern or one question that you can ponder through. You can share your opinion that how is intersectionality affecting SRHR policies according to your context? We are having people from various contexts in Africa, in Asia, in Europe, in America. So How is intersectionality affecting SRHR policies according to your context? So we can take a few minutes. You can share in the chat box. You can also go ahead and unmute and maybe share your lived experience or a scenario, and then we'll just conclude. The question is, how is intersectionality affecting SRHR policies according to your context? We have the chat box. You can also go ahead and just unmute and share your experience. Do we have anyone willing to go ahead and share kindly, or even express the interest in the chat box? You can also raise your hand. You can raise your hand and share the opinion. How is intersectionality affecting SRHR policies according to your context? We have the chat box. You can also unmute and share your experience. Do we have anybody willing to share kindly? Okay, I think we can use the chat box. Okay, I'm seeing a hand is raised. Agnes Namwange, I hope I pronounce your name well. You can unmute and share kindly.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Agnes, go ahead.
Oh, my name is Agnes. I am from Nexus Youth Initiatives, collaborating partner in the Make Way program from Uganda. I think one of the things I want to say about intersectionality and how it affects our policies is there is a knowledge gap between the policymakers and the intersectionality itself. We find that even in the advocacy spaces, we go to the people who are supposed to be who are in these spaces and are supposed to be, advocating for all these things, have no knowledge about intersectionality, and you find that at the different categories of people, especially young people with disabilities, you find that young people living with HIV, young people like teenage mothers, when they are making these policies, they are usually left behind because they are generalized, like they do not look at their specific needs, and you end up finding that these people are left behind unintentionally most of the time, because if they are not in these spaces to speak for themselves, it's very difficult for someone else to think out for them. So I feel like there is a very big knowledge gap, and the intersectionality aspect needs to be out there and taken into these stakeholder spaces, because people just unintentionally miss out certain aspects. And as advocates, as people who have gotten a chance to know about intersectionality, I think we should use this Make Way platform and get other allies to join us in the motion of advocating for intersectionality in every aspect of our work. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you very much. I can see Brenda Seki in the chat saying that in Kenya it is affected by socio-economic factors. SRHR policies do not touch on the underprivileged communities in need of these services. Someone, Regina, is saying that some people have negative attitude because they are ignorant about intersectionality. Thank you very much for sharing out. I'm sure all of us in one way or the other, we have been affected in our country context, in our various contexts, we've been affected by the aspect of intersectionality, especially when it comes to various policies that we have within our countries or within various contexts. So I will just go ahead and conclude on today's presentation, because we've almost exhausted everything, unless there is a concern from the participants. Kindly, if there is a concern from the participants, you can raise your hand and share, or you can share in the chat box. But then I will invite Heke to go ahead and conclude for today's session and prepare us for tomorrow's final session, and yeah, definitely call it a day. Thank you so much. Heke, let me go ahead and welcome you to conclude.
I think it's Mwanya first.
Okay, Mwanya, you can share kindly. Mwanya, are you able to hear me? Okay, it's like I'm losing Mwanya. So I will definitely invite Heke to finalize on the conclusion and maybe something for tomorrow. Kindly go ahead.
Then I think, Suresh, we need to skip some.
Hello?
Oh, yeah, there you go. Mwanya.
Hi, sorry about that. Yes, so we're just going to conclude on the Intersectionality 101. Thanks everybody for being part of this. And our conclusion is that intersectionality is a very good tool, and it is a way to transform effective policies on sexual reproductive health rights. And it is also used to focus on inclusivity, accessibility, and the active reduction of systemic inequalities in our communities and societies. Also, intersectionality helps us to address the unique needs of individuals with intersecting identities, like my colleagues have explained. Also, intersectionality helps us to create more equitable and responsive healthcare systems. Next slide, please. And also, I just want to also let you know that intersectionality is used for so many things. And one of the things is to help us target health interventions, especially when we're working with health facilities in our communities, because we want these health facilities to be to make sure that the services for sexual reproductive health rights are there and are available. It also helps us to have an inclusive education and training when we're working with young people in the communities, or young people with marginalized who are marginalized. It also helps us to look at anti-discrimination protections, helps us come up with different policies that are discriminatory, as well as it helps us to have community engagement and representation from all types of people within our communities. It could be traditional leaders, it could be young people themselves, it could be parents, it could be stakeholders, as well as gatekeepers. And just to finalize on that, also intersectionality is another tool that can help us to have a holistic and inclusive SRH type of frameworks that we as civil society organizations can come up with. Thank you. So our takeaway for today is going to be on the policy, which is a treaty protocol. And would just like you, for the next session, which is going to be tomorrow, would like you to have a look at this policy, and also it will have some questions. So tomorrow we're going to start our session on the IBPA, and before we delve into that, we're going to have a few questions, and those are the links to the protocol, which is the African Protocol on the Human Rights and People for Disability, which is Article 17 of the protocol. So that's the link there. Just click on that, and you have that part, which is Article 17, only that part is what we'd like you to look at. And then you can also have the questionnaire of the IBPA. You just go through the questions, but we'll only look at 3 questions as we start the session tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Mwenya. I'm seeing concerns in the chat box, and they'll be appropriately addressed. So yes, I'll go ahead and invite Reke so that she can conclude on the Mentimeter and maybe and tomorrow's session, so that we keep within the time. Reke, you can take over kindly.
Yeah, because tomorrow we're going to talk a bit longer about the intersectional based policy analysis tool, which is the tool who was the most demanded by people who are interested in the toolkit. And so we like to know the before and at the end. We are going to ask you the same question, but please, if in the Mentimeter, in the same Mentimeter as you were before, give you rate on your comprehension of this intersectionality-based policy analysis tool. How much do you know about it now, at this moment? And we are going to ask you the same question afterwards. So please, rate your score for now. And you can also follow the link in the chat.
Thank you for that. We are still just using the same Menti. The link is the same, the code is the same. So we can use it fast as possible. Kindly to share our feedback on the knowledge on IBPA, policy budget analysis. We need like 2 minutes and done on that. Suresh, you can kindly let us know when the responses are coming.
Hi, Sylvester. Yes, we are receiving. So far we have 16 responses, and you can see the result in here. So 7 of them has score of 3 out of 5 in terms of level of understanding that they have around intersectionality-based policy analysis. Yeah, it'd be good if we have some more responses to this Menti.
Sure.
We have total 40 people in the room, so can wait. I think.
Okay, we can wait. We can continue sharing our responses on the knowledge on IBPA. The link is in the chat box, and also in case you need to scan the code, share your response.
So the question is, how much do you know about the intersectionality-based policy analysis tool that will be dealt with tomorrow in the second session of this masterclass? And we will go into depth with that tool tomorrow, but we like to have your score before. How much do you know about it now? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, just maybe I would like to share that the responses that you're sharing, it doesn't come with your name, so it's really just response. So we don't know who responded what in terms of answer. So if you are hesitant to share because you're not sure whether it is anonymized, just want to say that it is very anonymized and we don't know who have submitted which response to the Menti. question. Yeah, I think we have 16 responses, 17, and yeah, maybe we can stop.
Okay,
I will just leave this Menti slide on, and Heike may, yeah, if you want to close.
Yeah, can you go back to the exercise maybe in the PowerPoint? So
Yes, yeah.
because it was a bit fast maybe.
The last slide.
Did you take out the ones on the protocol?
Yes, let me do that.
Or I can
This
share.
one?
Yeah. So the IBPA, as we call it, it's a tool to analyze policies. So tomorrow we're going to do an exercise with the IBPA, but it's a rather extensive tool. So we need to limit ourselves a bit, but just to have a touch of how this tool is working. We are going to apply it on the African Disability Protocol, which is a protocol who has been ratified by more than 15 countries and will be enforced shortly. And it's formulated by the African Union, so it's really African-based protocol. And from this protocol, we're going to take just one article. There's several articles in it, but we just going to take the article on number 17, which is on the right to health. And it's this one. And for those who are joining tomorrow, I really like you to ask to read through this already for tomorrow, because that will be the exercise in the breakout rooms, where you're going to apply some of the questions of the IBPA. So we will share with you the link to the whole protocol, but it's only Article 70 that we want you to read. And then there's also the questionnaire. It's good to go through the questionnaires of the IBPA, but we're not going to use all the questions for tomorrow. We will give you a selection of questions where we're going to work with tomorrow. So you're really invited for tomorrow to take part as well and to join us in doing the exercise. So it's more applied. An applied masterclass tomorrow. Hope you will be there. Back to you, Sylvester. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, please join us.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, I wish to conclude because it's exactly 16:30 hours, so that's the time. So let me, is there any concern, please? I don't want to lock anybody out. Yeah, seemingly there is no concern. I just read about the chat about interpreter, but so thank you so much, everybody, for taking your time to join us today. And we are so optimistic and open to seeing all of us again tomorrow for the final session, at least on the final tool, so that we can strengthen our advocacy mechanisms and improve our community. I am done for now. Thank you so much. Enjoy your evening, enjoy your morning, enjoy your night.